Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Patterson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Duffy, and we have had a few weeks off since our last episode. It was the trade talk. I think episode 3 was our last episode that we have done on Baggers Chat. But obviously today we are doing a bit of a draft preview because we were just speaking about how quickly the year's gone, and now we're already up to 13th of November, and of course the draft is next week, so time flies, and we just thought that we would be very quick to get up a draft preview sort of episode because I think it was very important, and I think it's a massive draft ahead. But Duff, first things first, mate, how are you? And how's your last few weeks been? Because we obviously haven't had an episode, so how have you been?
No, I've been good, mate. Like you said prior to the video starting, it kind of flies, I think, this time of year. I think we think it is ages, but I think it's only 100 and something odd days. I think I checked the other day, a bit of a nuffy, checking how many days until the first bloody game, but which looks like we're playing Richmond the first game. But yeah, no, it's exciting. I think the draft is well, I don't think we expected to be up so high before the trade period. Now where it got pick 3, and it looks like a stacked draft full of guys who expected to be 200 plus game players.
Yeah, well, like last night we did this run sheet last night. We put down some names that we think that could potentially go 1 and 2, and now it just seems like that has just gone completely out the window because there's been a new phantom draft from the mastermind Carlton from AFL.com.au, and he's a mastermind, as I just said, and now things have changed because there's a player that we were looking at pick 3 that we were really keen on, and I think it was probably a good. It probably was the main reason why Nick Austin wanted to go so high because he wanted this certain player, and of course the player that we've mentioned a few times is Finn O'Sullivan, and now it seems like he could go pick 1, but there's probably 8 out of that top 10. They are players that could potentially go pick 1. They have the talent to go pick 1, and as you said, the leadership as well. They are all guys that really could be that leader in a few years' time if they get the opportunity to. Also with a younger club, like say like a West Coast, if they're on the rebuild. But of course they've now lost their pick, high pick. So Duff, we're just going to go straight through into the Carlton draft picks, and obviously we have pick 3, pick 38, pick 63, pick 68, pick 69, and pick 71. And I think the reason why we have so many picks in that later draft order is obviously because of the Camporelli twins, Ben and Lucas, and they have both committed to the club. So Ben is likely to be selected at pick 38 or even a little bit lower. So obviously if he gets bidded, if he gets taken a little bit earlier, we can use those picks to get Ben into the club. And I think Lucas is the player that might be pushed a little bit later, if not even into the rookie draft. But Daff, just though, are your thoughts on those picks and I guess the strategy behind it? Because obviously we are going behind the Campo twins, but your thoughts on Ben and Lucas? I think Ben's probably the better one, and it seems like he is the guy that's going to go quite high, if not around that pick 25 to 30. But also Lucas, he's got the talent as well. It's not like Ben's loads, but like is so much better. Like they're kind of both around the talent, and I just think Lucas has just been a little bit behind the 8 ball this year in his draft year. But your thoughts on the picks, but also the Campo twins?
Yeah, it's good to have a few father sons. I feel like we haven't had a few years with. I think what was our last one? Probably Jack Silvani, wasn't it?
Money.
I think so. So apart from probably no one else, but yeah, it's exciting. Obviously, the whole emotional factor with the father playing for the club, premiership player, again footballer for the club. It's exciting. Like you said, obviously Ben looks really, really, really good. So I think the draft's stacked. So if he's rated in around that pick 30, pick 35, around that mark, it shows he's a pretty good player. So he's had a very, very good season. Lucas is pretty handy as well. So getting those two guys in for relatively, we don't have to sway them, or we don't have to trade up. We don't have to, it's they're ours, and it looks like Ben will be bidded at about pick 32, pick 33. So I think it'll be the Saints or one of those clubs bidding on him. Obviously, the Saints are obviously eyeing our players all the time because of a particular reason I won't go into. But yeah, no, they look exciting. And once again, it's good to have kind of the history of the club continue with the Campo Reale name.
Yeah, well, you've just said it. We probably didn't really want to touch on it, but obviously, Jack Carroll has been picked up from St Kilda as a delisted free agent. I think the last time we did an episode, we weren't too sure
Yeah.
what his future kind of looks like moving forward, and we probably were still quite keen to give him a contract. If we were willing to give him a contract, I think we would have been happy about it. But it turns out that obviously we haven't given him a contract, and St Kilda picked him up, which I think is a great pick by them. But now they've got Liam Stocker, Paddy Dow, Jack Carroll, and obviously Sauce is the list manager at the Saints. And there's a bit of a joke going around about that. And I've been hearing stuff about Jack Silvani if he doesn't play too well next year, that Sauce will pick up Jack Silvani at the end of the year, because I think he might be out of contract actually next year, Jack Silvani. That is a bit of a conversation, but we'll save that for next year when we win the flag. But a quick one about the draft. The bidding of Ben, and if he goes around that pick 32 to 33. So we have 38 and 63 and 68. Which picks do you reckon gets the bid done? Because it would obviously be 38, but do you reckon it would just be 63, or is it 68 as well?
Yeah, I always get a bit confused about the whole draft points. They were talking about how we wanted to, I think when the Kemp deal was talked about, that we wanted a pick that would be used in the draft and not used for the bid for Ben. So I think if it's in a range, the bid can be taken away from you. The pick can be taken away from you depending on where the player is bidded at. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. To be honest, I know that's not providing too much insight, but it's a bit confusing for me, that whole point system. But hopefully we can get and then both through the door and still use pick 38. But I'm not too sure. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. It's the confusion heading into the draft, and if the audience who's watching the draft doesn't know how it all works, and it's been a thing for a few years now.
Yeah.
Son, and Levi Ashcroft is meant to go very high, if not even pick one, and we don't even know how that gets done. And then you look at it, and it's like pick 60, 64, 66, 70, 74, 70, and I'm like, how does that equal you getting pick one?
Yeah.
So I think in a few years' time they need to have a bit of a look
next year. Well, next year's going to be harder. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be. I think the points will be. You need to get higher picks. Obviously next year. I think next year is Cody.
Yeah, I've heard
Cody Walker. So, he's another father son that we're looking at, and he looks like an absolute jet. So, clearly that's the reason for some of these guys getting delisted as well. That could be staying on the list.
Well, let's hope they don't change the rules next year, because we don't have a future. We don't have a future first next year. So let's just hope that maybe we can pick up Cody Walker at pick 5 for a pick 143 in the draft. Let's just hope that they don't change the rules until maybe the year after. But because I know that I was hearing something about it potentially being changed, and I don't know if it was next year or not. But yeah, I think Cody Walker is going to be a player next year as well. So that is a lot to be excited about. But let's just say it once again, when we win the flag next year, I think it would be great when Cody Walker walks into the club after the club has just won a premiership. Daffy boy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We're going straight onto it. But I just think the last question that we'll ask before we get into, I guess, the pick 3 situation is, do you think that we could be a big player in the draft, in terms of we have a few picks there, and I don't think it is likely to happen because we don't have a lot of future first picks, but we were like, there's a lot of conversation going towards that mid-range, like plays between the 15 to 30. There's a heap of talent from pick 1 to pick 40. There's players there that are something that we haven't seen before. Like this draft is so, so strong. And I guess the question is next year, we could only get Cody Walker, which I think I would actually be happy about. But
I just checked. He's a year after.
oh,
It's 2026 draft.
2026 draft.
Yeah, so we'll be okay. We'll get him.
There's someone next year that we're keen on, though. Is there a father-son next year?
Nah. Cody Walker, 2026. I just searched it up because in my head I'm going, I don't know if he's next year. Because when I was saying just before, I was like, am I right? I was like, no, but I just looked at it. 2026, he is eligible for the draft. So year after the next draft.
So 2026 heading into 2027 season.
Yes.
God, time goes fast.
It's not that far away. It's not that far away.
That's scary. That's actually scary. That like there was a big like mind blowing situation there. 2025 next year. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe they can change it maybe for a year or two, maybe, and then when we need to get Cody Walker, maybe they can go back onto the point situation. But so knowing that, there's no one next year that we really, I guess, are looking at from right now to looking forward. There's no one that we're really looking at right now. So do you think there could be any chance that we could be a big player heading into this draft, knowing how strong it is from pick 1 to pick 40? Do you think there's any chance that we could be a big player and move up the draft?
Well, with the draft hand we've got, I think it's impossible.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be hard to. I think on the night, not for us. I don't think there will be many moves, but I think on the night as a whole, I think you'll be seeing a lot of clubs.
Oh yeah.
Moving. It seems to be the night where teams make really rash decisions or really sudden decisions and go, fuck it, let's just give away, 18 and 20 for 10 or things like that. So that's the excitement, I think, on those types of nights. But for us, I think we've made our big play. I think pick 3 was never on the cards, and we somehow looked at the West Coast and Hawthorn deal, wasn't getting done. You tap the shoulder of the Hawthorn list managers and go, well, we need these 2 picks. And then that West Coast are in a situation where they had to give up 3 to get a couple picks for Baker. So that was really smart on their end, actually looking for the future, like looking how it will work, like 2 steps ahead in a sense, which that's what got us the pick. And I think that's all we need for now.
Liam Baker, Matt Owies, and pick 14 for pick 3.
Yeah.
That's what the trade was, wasn't it? Was that the trade?
Yeah, it was. But it's funny because we did give up 2 futures, like a future first and a second to Hawthorn. So that includes in the trade as well. So it's like we didn't just give up Owies 12. We gave up pick 1, the first round of next year, second round of next year, 12, 14, and Owies. But Owies is going to get delisted. So, no, he was. So it's like it was just a trade where it was just like, okay, we'll just give him away. So it worked in our favour.
Yeah. I know. I just still think it was. I mean, we said it on the night. Like, I just could not believe that West Coast actually did that trade. But I mean, it's done. We're happy we got our pick 3. So now we will head into the conversation with the pick 3. And there's a few players here, Daf, that we have written down. And I want to make sure that there's plays here that could go at pick 3, but well and truly, they could be picked at pick 1 and 2.
Yep.
Easily. So there's a few players here. I mean, there's no way that Levi Ashcroft can come to the Carlton Football Club. So we could be a chance to bid, if he is still available, a pick 3 to get Levi into the club. But I just have a feeling that North will pick him at pick 2, and that will be the bid. I think Richmond will have that pick 1, and they'll have nowhere near they won't go anywhere near Ashcroft, and then pick 2, North Melbourne will bid, and then they'll obviously have another player in their mind. But I think heading into pick 3, I don't think Levi would have already been picked up. We would then slide to pick 4. So the first player we'll touch on, and obviously with this Phantom draft that's come out this morning, this player is now scouted to be pick 1, and it's Finn O'Sullivan, a player that we've already mentioned today, but it's been a player that we've touched on a few times, especially in the last episode. And so he's obviously a midfielder. His height is 182 centimeters, and he has come out of nowhere. Well, he's not really come out of nowhere, but he's had a really strong second half of the year. And I think that's when, out of nowhere, he's just kind of gone up the draft order and he's now found his way at pick 1 in the draft. So, Duff, your thoughts on O'Sullivan? Do you think there's any chance that we could get Finn O'Sullivan at pick 3 or even pick 4 if Levi Ashcroft was to get bid for pick 1 and pick 2? Is there any chance that in your mind you can still see O'Sullivan come to the Carlton Football Club at pick 3?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, well, the way I'm reading the North pick, I think that's the biggest thing. If he doesn't go to Richmond, I want to know what North's kind of priorities are. And it looks to me that their priority isn't actually a mid, which is weird.
Yeah.
And I think they feel like their midfield is, they've got some guys through there. Obviously, Sheasel can play through there now. And you got LDUs and, they've got McKercher, another guy who will be a midfielder through there. So maybe they feel like, obviously, they'll link to Taru, who's a defender. And maybe they might look to trade back in the draft, maybe still get Taru. Maybe they go, give away pick 2 to Richmond, who are eyeing off pick 2, so they get 1 and 2, and they get Richmond's 8 and whatever their next one is. So it's once again, like you said, it's an exciting prospect, just the whole night as a whole, and the trading up and trading down. So I think we can get Finn. I don't think he'll go 1. I think he has the ability to go 1, but in my opinion, I think the pick 1 will be Sam Lawler. I just feel like he's a guy that Richmond will take the punt on. I think they've just lost Dusty. Let's replace him with a guy who can play that kind of role in that midfield and kind of half forward and kick goals.
So your pick 1. So you have Lawler at pick 1, and then pick 2. So North Melbourne, you think could potentially go for who do you reckon will go pick 1, pick 2, and leave us with pick 3? Like, do you reckon? Because I completely agree with you about the midfield. I don't think North Melbourne need a midfielder.
No.
You probably don't really want to use that pick 2 on a guy who's scouted at pick 8, pick 9. So sorry, go.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that last point there, where you don't want to be using pick 2 on Taru.
Yeah.
So maybe they're feeling like, oh, maybe we do need to trade back. Maybe we don't need the pick 2. But for me, I just still find it weird in their sense that they're not looking at any of these blokes. But then maybe they're looking at Taru going, maybe the defense is weak at the moment. Maybe they need a guy like that. So maybe they're looking for more needs than, being happy and settling with another midfielder. So I think the Richmond should be eyeing off pick 2, because if they do get pick 2, I think O'Sullivan will be taken off our hands.
See, God.
They could go Lawler, or they could go Lawler and O'Sullivan, Smith and O'Sullivan. If I don't know if Draper will go 1, but any of those guys, that could be an exciting proposition for them to really kickstart their rebuild.
And Richmond have pick 1, pick 8. Is it pick 10 as well?
Maybe I'll look at it now.
Yeah. So while you're looking at that, a quick thing, and so if North have the pick 2, Richmond have so many picks, and I don't know if they're wanting to get a few later picks. They probably would rather have a few early picks and make sure that they get, because I have a good mate of mine who's a Richmond supporter, and he was saying a lot about how he wants to get as much talent in that first 10. So if he had the opportunity to go higher and get in that pick 5 again, like the top 5, he would do it. So have you got the picks in front of you?
Yeah, so Richmond have got 1, 6, 10, 11, 18, 20, 23, 24. So obviously 6 will be pushed back to 7 with Ashcroft. 10 will be pushed back to 11, 11 pushed back to 12, etc., etc. So yeah, maybe they look at a 10 and 11 for 2, or 6 and 10 for 2, or it's going to be interesting. And I don't think, Richmond have got 8 in the first 24. I don't think they take all of them to this year's draft, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to pick 8 blokes. I think they're going to look into next year's draft as well and try to get early there, because you want to stagger it. I feel like you don't want to just go 1. I know this talent pool is fantastic, but you just don't want to go all in, 8 picks into this draft. And then you look at next year and go, fuck, there's a few good guys early in next year's draft who are top end talents. So I know we're not Richmond, but I think they've got a lot to play out in terms of, do they want to attack 2? Because that could change our pick in a sense.
Yeah. And I think if there's any opportunity that Richmond takes to pick 2, line through O'Sullivan for mine. Unfortunately. But I mean, it was a good conversation. I think I'm a little bit less optimistic about it than probably you are about O'Sullivan. I would fucking love O'Sullivan at the club, but I just have a feeling that North just have another, like, they might even pick O'Sullivan a pick 2 easily and keep their pick 2, or if not, if they want Taru if they want that player, which they probably need, let's be real.
Yeah.
They'll probably do some sort of
because North only have 2 and 62.
See, yep, and they probably want.
Yep. If they were smart, I think they almost go. You'd rather 2 players than 2 that you not want, but that you don't need. Like you said, I think Taru's obviously been on a watch for them, but if Taru slides, it's not necessarily he might just get locked up by another club.
Yep.
So it's a game you play. Like, do you want to trade back, knowing you can get Taru? But what happens if you trade back and you don't get it? That's the thing. Like, you got teams like Melbourne, you got teams like St Kilda around that mark. Richmond again. Richmond could look at him. So it's because it's not necessarily when you rebuild, you're going straight midfielders. Look at how we did it. It was keys. It was key backs, key forwards. They're a massive, I don't know, asset to a rebuilding side.
Yeah. See, I reckon at pick 6, that's probably all they need, because they've got 6 and 10. Is that right?
Yeah, 1, 6, and 10 Richmond. Yep. And 11.
Yeah, God, I reckon that's actually. There's not really been much conversation about this. Might be exclusive out of Baggers Chat, mate. But
it's sorry, but it's people just think it will happen. People think it will happen, but it just it could be exciting, because it could be a draft night getting picked 2. That could be out of the blue, but surely Richmond are asking the question.
Yeah, they have to. They have to, like, especially since they know. Like, if we know, I think they would fucking know.
Yeah,
that they don't need Taru at pick 2, and they probably don't want to take Taru at pick 2 either. So switch around maybe 6, 10, and even if they want a little bit more, maybe 11 as well. Maybe have 2 and move something back for a future first. I don't even fucking know, but that could actually turn out to be a big shout, actually. So I'm actually quite keen to see how that happens. So we'll move on from Finn O'Sullivan, Duff, and we'll move on to our next player. And it's, of course, a player that we've talked about, us two have talked about a lot. Probably in our minds, the 2 players that we would pick at that pick 3 is Draper and O'Sullivan. So, I mean, the player that we are going to touch on right now is Sid Draper. He's obviously from South Australia, and he's a midfielder as well, 182 centimetres, the exact same as Finn O'Sullivan, and similar sort of player. And he's a player that you can have the 15 to 20 touches, impactful touches. You don't need the accumulator when it's the 25 to 30 disposals a game.
No.
You have the impactful touches, and I think that's exactly what we need in that midfield. So, Daff, I know you're extremely keen on Draper at pick 3, but obviously there is a few other players that we need to touch on as well. Your thoughts on Draper, and do you think there's a chance that we could take him at pick 3?
I think there's a massive chance. I think I agree with you. I think those 2, O'Sullivan and Draper. Draper looks ready. He looks ready to go. He played, I think he played a bunch of games in the sample this year for South Adelaide. So averaging 25 and 10 tackles. Oh, Jesus Christ. He and by this last point you've written down is got me even more excited. He was, this kind of form in the sample is reminiscent of Harley Reid last year in the VFL. So, I think anyone who picks him up he'll be playing round 1, whether it's us who are pushing for a premiership or a bottom side. So, and you know how stacked our midfield is. It shows you how good he is. He's ready to go. He's ready to go, and I would be absolutely over the moon if he's at Carlton next year. I just think, I know I've seen this narrative like, oh, but he's South Australian, he'll want to leave after 2 years. He's made it clear if he's picked by a big club, he's going to get around it. So we haven't had many players leave to their home states.
Yeah.
We haven't really had many. Had a few, obviously, a few guys leaving, and Jack Carroll not going to WA. He's left to go to St Kilda and, Fisher to fucking North Melbourne. I know he's a WA boy, but they're not leaving to go home. And I think, gee, if you come to a team and you go, fuck, you got Cripps, Walsh, and TDK in the midfield with you, I don't think you're going to be leaving anytime soon. So it's it's an exciting, very, very exciting potential player to join the Navy Blues, Patto.
Yeah, well, thinking of that midfield round one against the Tigers when you've got bloody Lawler, same pick. Let's do bloody Harvey Langford at bloody pick 8, whatever. And then you've got Cripper. Wow. City Draper in there. My God, gosh. But that's the thing. I will ask you a question now. It's a bit tough, and I know that we haven't really spoken about it, but I've kind of put you on the spot here, so I apologize in advance, boy. But if you were at pick 3, and Finn O'Sullivan and Sid Draper have not been taken, and it's pick 1, pick 2 have already been done. Levi Ashcroft may have been bidded, and North Melbourne pick 2. Right?
Yep.
Draper, Finn O'Sullivan is available. Pick 4 or pick 3, whatever it is with the Ashcroft situation. Who would you be taking?
It's tough. I think
it's tough.
There's 2 different perspectives for me.
Yeah.
I think both players would play round 1. I think would fit him in. The way we're looking at our list now, it looks like I think they'll both play round 1. They'll fit him in somehow in some capacity. With Carroll going, the pecking order's changed. You got Lord and whoever, and God, it's tough. It's really tough. But I'm actually going to pull the trigger here. And it's going to be Draper.
Wow.
I think he's ready. I think they're both ready. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm going to oppose to one another, but I just feel like, I just think there's something about this kid. I think there is something about this kid that he's ready. He's ready to impact in big games for the Navy Blues. With a midfield that's already stacked, he will find his way in that midfield through his form, through his work in the preseason, through his work this year. He looks ready. He looks built. He looks ready to play. I know Sullivan's obviously going to be that lighter frame. That's just going to be his career. Obviously, he'll get bigger and bigger. But, yeah, for the now, I think you go Draper.
Yeah, well, that's the question. So that's the whole reason why I asked, because you've got one side of Draper playing in the SANFL, getting that senior experience against AFL players.
Yeah.
But then you've got O'Sullivan, who obviously has still had that experience.
Yeah, he played Richmond VFL.
Yeah, I think he only played 3 or 4 games.
He dominated too.
Yeah. So then, he obviously knows that he can execute at senior level, but Draper had the full season because he obviously had his draft year. I mean, he could have been picked up last year. So that's why I thought I would ask it, because you've got one guy who has been one of the best in the championships, but then you've got one guy who's been very, very good in its own right, but also has dominated in the SANFL all year long. So that's just why I thought I would ask. I will go for a bit of a different side. I'll go with Finn O'Sullivan. If they're both available, I think Finn O'Sullivan is a guy that I would love to take at pick 3. But Daf, next player, Jagger Smith from Victoria. He's a midfielder, 181 centimeters. When I was looking at this Phantom draft last night, he was scouted at a bit about pick 6, pick 7. But the mastermind, I'll say it again, the mastermind, Carl Toomey, has brought out his Phantom order today, and Jagger Smith is actually scouted at pick 4, and that's including Levi Ashcroft. So he could go at pick 3. And there's been a lot of conversation going towards Jagger. And I know that a few months ago he was one of these players that could go and pick one.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think we've got the same kind of mindset about this and kind of perspective about this is if God is he's a awesome player.
yeah.
Don't think we will pick him at pick 3. And it's not because he's bad. It's just
No,
of his role and the way that he doesn't suit what we want. He's more of the 25 to 30 disposal
Yep.
player, and it's not the player that I think we need right now.
no,
So your thoughts on Jagger Smith? I know that you were quite keen on him last episode,
yeah,
the Trade Talk episode 3, but I know that your perspective hasn't changed in terms of him as a player, but
no.
us picking him at pick 3 may have changed a little bit in your mind.
Yeah, I think he, we might have both the same kind of view on it. I think he'll actually slide a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he'll go maybe a Melbourne or a, kind of 5, 6, 7 around there, maybe even St Kilda. So, yeah, he's a great player, but I just feel like you got Cripps, Walsh, Hewitt, Chair, obviously.
Yeah.
Like it's hard enough to get the pill as is.
Yeah.
And if he's a number one priority guy getting the ball inside, then maybe he's not the guy for us. And this last point that you put down is huge with, he's not gaining enough meters with his possessions, which is fine. That's like a George Hewitt type role where you're kind of in and under, like a Cripps sometimes. So that's fine. But like you said, I don't think it's a need for us, and I think we will not be picking him at the draft.
So one more question before we move on to our next player, and it's something that I don't want to really speak about because I don't think any of us never want it to happen. But Patrick Cripps, he's not getting any younger.
No.
Ian Hewitt, he's not getting any younger as well. We've got Chera and Walsh, who's in their prime of their careers. Harvey Langford is another player that I'll probably ask a similar question, so I thought I would kind of bring them both together. I know that Jagger is a little bit smaller, of course. Harvey Langford's, I think, 191, 192, and obviously Jagger is 182, but he's that inside mid that gets the ball out. Do you think we might need to kick a player like this, and he might not necessarily have to play in season 2025, but to develop when a Patrick Cripps retires? I literally, it pains me saying it, but we have to be real about it. He's not getting any younger. George Hewitt as well. Do you think we could kind of not bite the bullet, but I guess pick a player now that, probably wouldn't guarantee game time next year in season 2025, but develop to to have in his mind that in a few years' time it will be your time because there will be a spot in that midfield because a player like a Cripps will be pushed out of that midfield because obviously due to retirement. So I know it's a very, very tough question. I had some trouble asking it because I don't really know how to shape it because it's obviously years and years and years away. But do you think I know that I would never do this. I'm sure you would have the same kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But do you think there's any chance that Carlton could take that side of, like that mindset of going with a player like this at pick 3?
No, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think all these guys, in my opinion, should be playing at AFL level come round 1. And I get it. I completely get it. What is Cripps, 29, 30? Guess he's probably got another 4 or 5 years. He looks like he's keeping his body in shape, which is good, obviously, pending whatever. But, no, I think we've got to do it for the now. I think we didn't go for Houston. We didn't go for other players in the trade period. I think you got to do best of both worlds. Get a guy who can impact now, but also is the future. So I think you can do it with these types of players like Draper and O'Sullivan and Lawler, who we'll touch on, and guys like that. So, yeah, it's a best of both worlds, I think, this draft, where guys can come in and play, but also they are your future as well. So, it's a really, really good I think that's a good way to look at it in this draft. A lot of these probably top 6, 7 guys are going to be playing early, but it's not just for the next 2 years. They're your future as well. So they've got a high ceiling, but also are ready to go now.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Absolutely hit it out of the ballpark, David Boys. So we'll move on to the next player, and it's a player that we've mentioned a few times. It's a guy that could be picked to pick, could be picked at pick. That's a tongue twister. Picked to pick one, but also could slide to pick 5, pick 6, or even we could pick him up at pick 3. And it's Sam Lawler, and he's obviously 188 centimeters. He's a midfielder. It was a player that I didn't even have on my list originally, and I just thought I would add him in because obviously he is a guy that would well and truly be picked up at pick 3. So I know you're very, very keen on him. And I think I didn't ask it. I didn't really ask the question for Jagger, but I guess I'll ask it now. Do you think that he could be kind of competition for O'Sullivan and Draper to be that pick 3 for Carlton if he is available?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, the Tigers are looking at him for pick 1. So, and of course, there's like it says here, there's going to be a world where he isn't picked at 1, and that's going to be the interesting thing. Who looks at him? And every club has interest in the top 5 in him. So clearly, he's rated very highly by all the clubs. It says here that he has that kind of follow me type of style where recruiters think he will be a future captain, which is a big thing as well. I think we've got a few guys who are definitely those types of players in our side, probably on all lines. You look at Kerno, you look at Walsh, you look at Wiedering, I think Wiedering will be our next captain. But there's always room for those guys, and it gets me excited. This first point where it says tough, aggressive, fend off machine who flies for overhead marks, bustles through backs, kicks goals. So you've always got to look at those types of attributes and go, gee, that's a player that I think any team can have. But I just got a feeling we won't get him. I don't know, but gee, if he's available, what are your thoughts? Because you look at those attributes and you go, fuck. Like that, those types of attributes win you games. You know what I mean? You talk about the goeies, and obviously Dusty's retired, but there's different guys like that in this game these days that they don't need 50 touches. They just need to be getting fed the ball 15 to 20 times, and you go, gee, he looks like he's had 30. He's only had 15, but he's kicked 4. So, it's those exciting players that you just can't look away from, Patto.
Yeah, well, I guess the question again, and I've asked it, I feel like I've asked it with O'Sullivan, I've asked with Draper, I've asked with now, well, I will now be asking it with Lawler. And if they were all available at pick 3, I would almost go with Lawler at this point.
Yeah.
Reading that and the player that we need, we've given up a hell of a lot to get pick 3. So if he's not playing round 1 next year, I'll be like, well, what the fuck was the point?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we almost have to do something for the player that we need right now. And the player that we need right now is that midfield impact player. And I think Lawler can be that guy as well. But O'Sullivan and Draper can be that guy as well. So I'll ask it again. This will be the last time I'm asking for these players.
Right.
Lawler, Draper, O'Sullivan, pick 3. They're all available. Who are you picking?
They're all great. They're all great. They're all great. But
I still reckon you would pick Draper.
Yeah.
Yeah, you keen.
I think I will, but if any of these guys are selected, like I've been saying, I'm more than happy, and I'm clearly the recruiters have put in the work the last probably year looking at these guys. Not just people just think, oh, they just looking at it in the last 2 weeks. They've been putting the work in for these guys the last few weeks, the last few months. Sorry, but yeah, Law looks great, but I think Sid will fit very nicely in that midfield. Just adding that little bit of just something different. And obviously he was bottom aged All Australian last year before his draft year, and obviously the MVP at under 18 level. So as Toomey says, Draper is a pro. He's ready to go.
There's a lot to think about that big 3. Because is there any chance that those three could be available at pick 3? There's probably not, is there? There's no way. Like, there's no way that Lawler, Draper, and O'Sullivan can be available at pick 3.
All of them available at the same time.
Yeah. It's unlikely.
Nah,
It would have to be.
it's unlikely, but I think 2 of them will be available. Oh, yeah, 2 of them will be available at 3. I still think Richmond will pick Lawler just because of his difference.
Yeah.
I think they need a guy like that just to kickstart their, because they've still got 6. So they might keep 6 and still go after a Harvey Langford or a whatever. So maybe it's the way they look at it.
See, Harvey Langford, I reckon I would love if Harvey Langford went at 1. Because if he went at 1.
Yeah. He won't, though, I don't think.
Yeah, he won't.
I know we would love it. We see both of us will be texting each other on draft night. I know a lot of Carlts, and we'll be going, please pick, pick whoever.
No,
just don't be someone that's we're looking after. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, I've said. Well, obviously the last player on this list, it's our man Harvey Langford.
Yeah.
And, it's obviously he's from Victoria. Position midfielder, and he's 191 centimeters. Daf, don't think we'll spend too much time on Harvey Langford because I don't think there's a high chance that he comes to the Carlton Football Club. But if he does, and he is pick and he is chosen at pick 3, how would you find it? Because obviously he is a solid. He obviously is a very, very good player. So how would you kind of find it if we do pick him at pick 3?
Yeah, it's 191. Looks like he's got goal threat, which is always a point of difference for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll go for him. I don't think we'll pick him. It says he was the number 1 ranked player though at the under-18 national championships, but I just feel like with O'Sullivan and Draper, I feel like they're 182. I don't think we need a big, tall midfielder right now. I think, you got Cripps, Hewitt's a big boy. Even, Chera's, he's that kind of mid-range, inside-out player. So, yeah, I think that 182, bit of pace, nice size is nice. But Harvey Langford is a good player. I'll pick where he goes. I'll actually say where he will land. This is where I think he will land. I think he'll land at Melbourne.
Yeah.
I think he'll land at Melbourne. I think he's that new kind. I think Melbourne are underrated next year. I know I've got that bias due to family ties, but I just don't know this whole. Their list is good. Their list is good. You get a full preseason, Oliver. You get a full season of Petrarca. They missed the whole second half of the year. They get 5 and 9 in. Their young guys are good. McVee's and guys like, Pickett's and Ben Royan's got another year, and you got Gawn playing a full year. And you add a Harvey Langford in that mix into that midfield. It could be very, very good for them.
Yeah, they've got 5 and 9. That's crazy.
I know, and they've still got their best players that the Melbourne Football Club will ever have. They're 3 players: Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver. And if you add another guy into that mix, Patto, that midfield looks really fucking good. Really good. And I don't know what everyone's writing them off for. I'm not really sure why. They're proven players. And they're adding a 5 and 9. It could be a key forward at 9 too with Harry Armstrong. So I know it's not D's chat, but they're just flying under the radar. I'd rather be flying under the radar at this time of the year than being where we're at. So
yeah. How did they get 5 and 9? So obviously they got 9 because of the ladder position, right? Or what?
They got 5. They got 5.
Where'd they finish?
They finished 5th last.
Golly gosh.
That actually
worked
out well for them. That worked out well for them. I think. And what did they get 9 from? No, they got 9 from Essendon. Yep. So they got 5 from the pick, and they got 9 from Essendon because Essendon didn't want 9 because they've got Kako as the academy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've done a really, really good job, I think.
Yeah. I didn't realise, no disrespect to Melbourne, but I didn't realise that they were that poor.
It's just because the season was so close. They weren't great, of course, but they weren't a bottom 5 team.
No.
Wasn't it? So it was that close where it's probably worked out well to be shit that year. get it in this draft. I'm not promoting tanking, but if you're struggling, you may as well be lower. You don't want to be that 9, 10. You want to be a bit lower, but yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to promote tanking, but probably do it this year. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think Melbourne have always been a side that I've kind of looked at it and be like, oh, they're always just there. They've always got heading into next year, you're like, yeah, they can win the flag. They've got the talent, they've got the coach, they've got the experience list, they can win the flag.
Yep.
Like you got a fit Clayton Oliver and he was pretty shit this year. They didn't
100%.
have a fit Petrarca. Bourne was okay, but even there was injury clouds around him. There wasn't really any standout players other than like Trent Rivers, and he's going to improve even more next year as well.
Yeah, and they're young. I think they're young. They're doing a good job. I think that's what we're looking to do. I think we're looking to have that next layer, but also they're in the team now.
Yeah.
So you look at McVee, what is he, 21? You look at other guys, Cozzy, Ben Royan's been playing every week, and key forwards take a little bit longer. We know with Kernos, and we know with, they flow. There's one year where they go, oh shit, like that guy's a real deal. So I'm looking at all the teams now. A lot of teams can make a case to push.
Spot on, Daffy boy. And obviously that is the last player in the last sort of segment that we'll touch on for this episode. So, Daff, before we wrap up the episode, is there anything else you would like to touch on before we head in to probably one of the biggest drafts in the past few years, especially because there's a hell of a lot of talent? But is there anything else you would like to touch on?
No, I'm excited. Obviously, it's a week out. We'll do a draft recap. I'll probably following the rookie draft and that, which is the day after, just so we can get our heads around the whole, what we're doing, who we're picking up, etc., etc. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm just looking at all the teams and the different picks. Obviously, Adelaide's got 4 and 64, and Collingwood's got nothing. So that's a big risk. Freo got 14, 30. So it's exciting. It's exciting, and it's exciting to have a pick this high for a team that we should be pushing the top 4, and the key word is should be, not necessarily we will be.
One more thing I'll touch on: Geelong.
Yeah,
the first pick is 45.
Yeah, they'll pick
someone. Bailey Smith, but God, they put some. They have some pressure, don't they? No, they don't have pressure.
Yeah.
Got some older players, but we say this every year. Oh my God. We say every year about Geelong.
They'll pick some gun at 45 or 57. I'll guarantee it.
Yeah.
They picked Humphreys for 58 or something.
Yeah, it was like 60, so yeah.
Stupid. So clearly they're backing it in. Their list looks good for next year, but there's some teams I have question marks over, and it's one of them is a little sneak peek is Sydney. I'll just have a little bit of a question mark over them. But anyway, it's been a good episode, Patto, and I'm excited for the draft.
So your question mark is Sydney. My question mark probably always is a question mark. Is the Collingwood Football Club? That's just a question from my point of view, definitely. But is that the last thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Cool. All right. So to every single blue back, it's been a bit rusty. I'm actually a little bit awkward at the moment because probably hasn't been on the episode for a while. So apologies for the be a little bit awkward then, definitely. But to every single blue bagger out there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube, but also our podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Music, or whether it's Amazon Music. There's a few other platforms heading into next year that we want to try and share our content on. So make sure to keep watch for that, but also make sure to get around our social platforms, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. There's a few others out there as well, Daffy Boy. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to every single blue bagger out there. The baggers!